sea to shining sea and beyond. The idea that the beautiful island of Greenland could in fact become part of the United States is starting to sound more and more serious.
President-elect Donald Trump signaled yesterday at a press conference that he may even use the military in pursuit of that goal. Let's watch.
We need Greenland for national security purposes. I've been told that for a long time, long before I even ran. I mean, people have been talking about it for a long time. You have approximately 45,000 people there. People really don't even know if Denmark has any legal right to it.
Trump's son, Donald Trump Jr., paid a visit to the island yesterday.
Now, some may be wondering whether acquiring Greenland, would in fact be worth it.
Author and political commentator Richard Hanania seems to think so, though, to be clear, he doesn't support using military force.
In a new Substack piece titled, "Should America Buy Greenland?" Hanania writes, "You may say I'm a dreamer, but is this crazier than Donald Trump becoming president? There's one thing the last few years have taught us. It's that reality can be a lot more hilarious than we once believed possible, and many of the events that have made life more fun have been the direct result of Donald Trump and Elon Musk using their outsized voices and money to undertake projects that no one else would be bold enough to undertake." Joining us now to make the case for Greenland is Richard himself. Thank you so much for joining Rising.
Glad to be here, Robbie. Thank you.
So lay it out for us. You were supportive to some degree of the idea of acquiring Greenland, and I think I am increasingly persuaded of this as well. No, we should not seize it, obviously, using military force. I don't even think Donald Trump wants to do that. This was like a classic case of the media asking a kind of out there theoretical, philosophical thing, and because Trump just refuses to say, no, I would never do this, he says, yeah, maybe, I don't know, if the situation arranged itself, and then the headline is, wow, Trump wants to deploy the military against Greenland. I don't really think that's what he was saying. But talk to us about what value this giant landmass, not as giant as the Mercator projection would suggest, but large nonetheless, would mean for the United States.
Yeah, so Greenland would overnight add 20% to our landmass. And as you mentioned, Robbie, it looks much bigger on a map. There are some maps where Greenland is bigger than Africa. So
it's like the whole
if you want
world of
American
Greenland.
children to grow up and be really proud of their country and feel like they live in a big nation, you want that to happen. And you want to give them all 2D maps because they'll think America just dominates the world. So what's the situation of Greenland? Greenland is basically a big chunk of ice. It's about 80% just a big chunk of ice that's 1.7 million square miles, goes 2 miles deep at some point. It's got 55,000 people, right? That's it. That is a small town in America. And they're basically, they don't particularly like the Danes. I mean, the polls have gone back for decades showing that most Greenlanders support independence. Now, independence for Greenland is probably not very realistic. You have 55,000 people. They're on the top of the world. They're not close to anyone else, and they're heavily dependent on the Danes. Something like half their budget of the government, they have home rule, but half the budget comes from Denmark. So it's not really realistic that they go off on their own and become their own country. And so since they're not attached to the Danes, there's a global empire right next door where everyone is welcome, where people from all over the world have come and made better opportunities for themselves. And I don't think that selling the local population on it would be that difficult. What could we do with Greenland? I mean, I don't know. We'll figure that out later. I mean, having more land is a good thing. What I do know is America is the kind of country that's going to dream big and going to actually find a way to utilize the land and make something cool out of it if it's given the opportunity. While I can't see no offense to Denmark, but I just can't see the relationship with Greenland progressing anywhere from here.
But hang on a second, Richard. I mean, I'm not, I don't want to be overly po-faced about this. I do see the fun or the more entertaining elements of the story, and I think you're being slightly mischievous in some of the things you're saying. But whenever you talk about America dreaming big, it's dreaming big in the sense of bringing another nation or another autonomous territory into its control. Certainly we've seen the EU or some leaders within the EU pushing back against this. I mean, I get that it's a big landmass. I get that it can, in fact, be strategically important. But we can't just go around seizing parts of the world without the acquiescence or the approval of their inhabitants, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that there has to be a moral line you don't cross. There has to be a the American interest and American dreaming big has to involve a moral aspect in how we deal with the rest of the world. So what I advocate for is basically to try to get the Greenlanders on our side. Now, Don Jr. and Charlie Kirk were there the other day. I noted that if they took pictures with 50 people in Greenland, that would be the equivalent of taking a picture with 360,000 Americans, because 50 people is already 1 in 1,000 of the entire island. And so, we're at the place where basically what they say about Greenland is it's on a slow path to independence from Denmark. There's this weird situation where they don't feel part of Denmark, but they're financially dependent on them. And so, there's potential here for a deal that is, beneficial for all involved. The Danes say they don't want it at this point, even the leaders of Greenland say they don't want it. And if we try and we try to make that case, and it's just a flat no, then I think it's a result we'll have to live with. But I think there's a possibility that with financial inducements, with a targeted propaganda is sort of a loaded term, but let's say taking our case directly to the people of Greenland, making the case for them. I don't think it's impossible that they first choose independence from Denmark, which Denmark seems historically willing to recognize if they want it, and then at that point potentially joining the United States.
You wrote in your piece effectively that size does matter, that the largeness of a country contributes to its reputation and social standing and how, I guess, basically intimidating it is. We are in certainly a conflict for domination with China. I myself do not want to see these conflicts come to military conflicts that will be totally destructive for us and them and the rest of the world. We want to, beat these other nations in the marketplace with economic power, with better trade relations, with peer countries that do like America and want to be allies of ours and want to profess values in accordance with the West, like free speech and free trade and free and fair elections and those kinds of things. Is adding to our to the literal size of our nation a part of that project.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, sometimes you'll see these comparisons. They'll say Russia's economy is about similar to Italy, or they'll say, the Netherlands or some Nordic countries together had more output in something or other than the Soviet Union. But people don't feel that. People don't feel that way. People do look at maps. They just see it as, even if you don't have the population to settle every inch of your territory, it does go into the psychological aspect. What is Russia? Russia is a country. It's got a big population, but not a huge population. It's got some resources and a strong military. But I think Russia is Russia because it's huge. And I think America, if it was 1/10 the size, it wouldn't be what it is. So if you believe, like I do, that America is still the greatest hope for the world, it's still progressive in the neutral sense of the term. It's still dynamic in a way that Europe, to a large extent, is not. Yeah, I also want American ideals to win out. And so I think that, what America has sort of stumbled upon is what is the way that, like, basically social, economic, and technological progress ultimately leads to. You go to Europe, you go even parts of Asia or parts of Africa, they know about American politics, they know about pop culture. That's not because George W. Bush launched a war or somebody planned it this way, or the State Department is that brilliant at influencing the rest of the world. It's because we are good at producing things that people want. We have a culture that's just appealing to people. That's why people come from all over the world and assimilate into it. And I think just getting Greenland would just be a reminder of that.
Well,
It would be cool. I think it's been rare. It's been rare that we've had these sort of unified projects. Hopefully, we do it without military force, without shedding blood, keeping everyone happy. Even the Danes, everyone will get compensated. But if all those conditions can be worked out, I think it's worth doing.
I think we're pretty much out of time, but just very quickly, Richard, I mean, to the point of American ideals, this is a country, the United States, that was obviously got its freedom from a colonial power. Aren't we just talking about a form of colonialism here, or is Greenland going to get its 2 senators and its member of the House of Representatives as well under your ideal plan?
Well, I mean, there are some parts of, there are territories in the United States that are not necessarily states. Yeah, that's going to have to be negotiated. I mean, maybe it would expand democracy. I saw Colorado Governor Jared Polis the other day say, make Greenland a state, but also give us Puerto Rico and DC. And, if MAGA and Elon Musk propagandize to Greenland and make it a reliable red state, maybe we can get Puerto Rico and DC, or at least one of them too. So yeah, maybe it'll heal our pre-existing divisions also.
You got to add one red state and one blue state, and expand democracy. And sounds like a Louisiana Purchase type deal for the modern era. Richard Hanania, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you, guys.